Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We're now officially in the Broncos season. We've got a football game behind us. The Broncos, the most important thing on everyone's mind, the Broncos keep their preseason win streak alive, now up to 5 straight, tied for second longest active win streak in the NFL. I had to prep that for my pregame coverage today. And I'm joined by the one and only David Talks Sports. Find him over. David, you have multiple YouTube channels, right? David Talks Broncos and David Talks Buffs?
Yeah, and David Talks Sports _ on TikTok, baby. Been doing the highlights on TikTok for the last few weeks, and we're over 100 followers on there.
I love it. Well, everyone, please follow David. Doing great content out there in Broncos country and in Buffs Nation. So everyone, like every day, I swear, you've got like 2 videos every day talking about whatever the latest breaking news is. So everyone, make sure you're checking that out and supporting him there.
Zach,
anyway,
I gotta say though, we haven't been on since you've been rocking the beard. Holy moly, man! You gotta keep it.
Thank you. Hey, I've been getting a lot of compliments on it. I'm worried people are just being nice, but I do like it. I feel like it's coming in nice. I feel like it looks pretty good.
I'm
nice
jealous.
Look.
I'm jealous of
you should
of
your beard looks great. You've got A+ facial hair right now.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
Well, glad to be back here with David. We did it last year. I think we're going to keep doing this all this season. So make sure you keep following us every post game. Excuse me having a little rust. I've been it's been a long day for me, admittedly. I was up early. On Saturdays I've got a crazy early radio show with lawyers I work, and then at a pregame Broncos game, post game. It's been a long one for me, so I'm a little rusty, but happy to be here with David. And man, what a convincing Broncos win. I don't think the final score is what you ultimately care about, but David, what was your big takeaway from tonight? I think that's maybe the best way to look at things.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's great to score 30 unanswered. That was awesome. But I think maybe we could just start with this. I'm sure we'll get to the first string offense, but that was the funnest part of this game. Nah, man, let's get to the real entertaining stuff. I think we got some interesting depth at running back. I haven't been on the Tyler Bedet train. I just haven't.
I'm with you.
I'm firmly jumping on that bandwagon right now, man. He looked shifty, showed great vision. I think he was our best running back in today's game. And it was nice to see Blake Watson get on the field, and I think he averaged over like 8 yards a carry today. Good in the pass game. And I think as the game went on, you saw some positives from Audric. So I think we're in agreement on how we feel about the top 4 is right now in the running back room. But what were your thoughts on their performances today?
I'm right there with you. You know, I think Jake let's start with this. Let's start with the depth, because you were just talking about that, and then we can get to the starting element of it. That's really interesting to me. I think Watson, being here in Denver, shout out to KOA for getting me into all the training camp practices. I thought Blake Watson was like having the best training camp of the bunch. Not to say he was the best player, but he looked great all training camp long. Smoke through a keyhole. I keep describing that with him as a ball carrier. I think that's a apt description there. And then I think he's the best pass catcher of the bunch. His ability to translate, and you saw it tonight, his ability to translate from pass catcher to ball carrier is so natural, so quick. It doesn't break any stride when doing it. And that's something he brings to the offense that Jaleel McLaughlin doesn't.
Yes.
And we know who the top 2 guys are. We'll talk about the order in more depth here, but J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey, in some order, at least for now, are the top 2 guys. And the other 4 are battling for 1 to 2 roster spots. And when you start having those debates, it's like, well, what does Jaleel McLaughlin bring us that RJ Harvey doesn't? Really not that much. What does Blake Watson bring us that RJ Harvey doesn't? He's a more refined receiver right now, and a much more refined receiver than Jaleel McLaughlin. Jaleel McLaughlin's a small, fast running back, and people go, oh, he's a great receiver. He's actually not. He's a very limited receiver, and he's a terrible pass protector. It's the same problem Philip Lindsay had, where looks like he should be a great pass catching back. Unfortunately, he isn't. And Blake Watson is. He's he was a wide receiver prospect coming out of high school, translated to running back, and you see that. So I want to echo that from you. Watson looked great. Bedet looked great. I thought kind of rough nights for Estime and McLaughlin. McLaughlin, I think, averaged under 2 yards per carry, only 3 carries, but not great. And then Estime also struggled. Slow start, like you said. I thought he closed things out better, but I still think he was outplayed by the other guys in that room, and he's looking in trouble right now.
Yeah, I would say we should have no allegiance to draft capital, contract investment, anything like that. It's minimal. The differences with a lot of these guys, I think, from just a contractual standpoint. So, take the best 4. And I think the best 4 right now, in no particular order, are RJ, JK, Bedet, and Watson. And it's nice to have some guys that can get some yards after contact, that can break some tackles, that can be depended on to make guys miss, but also get some tough yards. So that's like my big takeaway on the offensive side of the ball. We need running backs with juice. That was like the biggest pain point of our offense last year. And as long as these guys can stay healthy, I think we're in a good point. And I loved what we saw out of RJ Harvey. Let's talk about that for a moment. I think that he showed the ability to make guys miss and really hit that outside edge. Some really tough plays made by him that we haven't seen our previous running backs like the last couple of years be able to make. I think that he bounced so much stuff to like the outside at UCF that you can see that that's still something that's going to be needing to be corrected. But in preseason, Zach, you just want to see the flashes, the big plays. I think that's what you take encouragement from, is seeing that he did make some fantastic, like, eye-popping plays.
Yeah, he had his longest carry of the day came when he, bounced one outside. And I think that's kind of why it's going to be hard to curb that habit. Because I agree, that was a problem tonight. He wanted to bounce everything outside. And I think it's going to be hard to curb that habit because, man, not every single time, a lot of the times it paid off for him. And I think, he I don't know, maybe he's going to have to get bottled up before he starts regularly, before he starts toning that down. I hope the coaches are able to get through to him because, I think what you saw from him was really exciting. I don't like his vision later on in the down, I thought was really good. It was rough off the start where he was maybe bouncing some things he shouldn't have. But once it got later and he was looking for those additional creases, I thought that looked nice. The burst was everything as advertised. And he's a more substantial back than a Jaleel McLaughlin. He's not there yet as a pass protector, but he can be. He's got the heft to him. And you saw him make a couple plays with contact balance that, like, Jaleel McLaughlin's getting tackled on those. So I think he'll be a nice upgrade in that regard. One thing that also stood out to me, not even just like his on-field play, but his utilization. And I could see this being framed multiple ways. One, hey, it's preseason. Let's get the rookie the reps over J.K. Dobbins, keep J.K. Dobbins fresh for the regular season. Maybe it's just that simple. On the other hand, man, RJ Harvey was the first guy out there. He got way more work and way more touches than J.K. Dobbins did. J.K. Dobbins was practically just a third down back for the first team offense. I mean, what's your takeaway how that running back room at the top seemed to be structured in this game, at least?
I'm relieved. I'm a happy man because I think if we're going to get the most out of J.K. Dobbins, it's him supplementing RJ Harvey. So that's how I want the rotation to go, man. Pretty much start with Harvey, and then on third downs, maybe, you go to J.K., or in some certain situations, you find the hot hand. But that, yes, get him more reps right now as a rookie. He's going to need that. And like we saw, there were those big chunk plays making guys miss, but also I think he's going to have to learn by experience, as you mentioned, that open field tackling in the NFL is just so much better from defenses.
Absolutely. And just the athletes are so much better. And I feel bad. I see the comments and I'm realizing we haven't really talked about Tyler Bedet much, who might have been the best running back of the bunch. He really impressed me. And I'm right there with you. or I guess you did talk about him, about how just I was not a believer. Honestly, last year it was annoying me. I'm still this way with A.T. Perry, admittedly, but I feel like the Broncos country can get the practice squad crushes. And it's like, I remember this guy being hyped up in the draft, and we don't know what he is. He's kind of a mystery box. Let's give him a go. And it's like, man, maybe he's on the practice squad for a reason. And I felt that way with Tyler Bedet, excuse me, for much of December and January last year when, and I was wrong. That's where this is going. But I was like, hey, can we shut up about this? He had like 13 carries his entire NFL career. We're really over-indexing a lot on those. And even tonight, it was preseason against second teamers. But the vision, like that's something that should certainly translate. The burst, the speed, like I don't think that was just him being around a bunch of slow players. Like we're all used to watching NFL football games. That dude was moving quick out there for an NFL running back. Not RJ Harvey or Jaleel McLaughlin, but plenty of juice. Not as much contact balance as maybe some of those guys, but just like another nice floor raising option. You've got Dobbins is one of them, but Dobbins has injury problems. He's not the most reliable floor raising option. Adding Bedet into that mix, like I don't think he's going to be a top 10 running. I don't think he's going to be a top 20 running back this year, but he can just be a serviceable guy. And I think if what we saw tonight translates at all, he should be better than what they got out of either Javonte or Jaleel last year.
Yes. Agreed. And yeah, I thought this was interesting for like kind of circling back on this stuff with Buffalo, with Bedet active. And I think we gave him one carry, Audric benched. Did hear Cecil talk about this earlier on one of his shows. I think it was yesterday or this morning, mentioning that he heard from a source that it was because Estime fumbled in practice leading up to that game of why he wasn't active for that playoff game. And like it was very interesting to see Bedet get so much more of the work ahead of Audric in this game. And I still think it's clear that Bedet is right now that maybe tied right now with Jaleel for kind of that third running back role right now. Good thing with Audric is that he didn't fumble, but again, I think that right now, give me the guys with juice that can make a big play, that can make a guy miss, and that's Blake Watson, it's Tyler Bedet, and if you need to get some tough yards, I do think RJ and JK, obviously, he has the ability to get those difficult yards on the goal line or short yardage situations. So overall, I think like stock up for the running back room. Not necessarily feeling great about some of the other aspects of our offense, especially with the first team. But dude, it's the first week of preseason. I'm not freaking out a whole bunch. Hopefully, they just knocked off the rust.
Yeah, let's see how the Titans game goes. And it wasn't ideal. I think that's fair. Well, I want to get into the negative. I have a few more positives maybe, but
okay,
it wasn't ideal. Let's all acknowledge that. You want to see the starters on either side of the ball beat up on another team's backups. That did not happen at all. I think that's disappointing. I think drawing wide-ranging takeaways from a preseason game with very vanilla play calling and just like rust and everything, I wouldn't touch it. Okay, so here's one thing. Steve Gutierrez is setting me up well with this comment. Bo Nix looked sloppy, looking like a rookie. I think he actually had a nice night tonight. I was happy with what I saw. I thought there was a lot of pressure he was having to deal with. Yes. There were some ugly things, like the throwaway for a safety. That was a stupid rookie mistake, like straight up. He had some jump passes. You shouldn't be jump passing, on those specific, which I think was only 2 reps, but on those specific instances, fully agree with Steve. Those are rookie mistakes. What are we doing here, Bo? Overall, though, I thought he was really nice. Like Sutton dropped that pass. That was an insane dime. Like that was a great ball from Bo. I also, with the O-line kind of having a disappointing performance against those 49ers backups, Bo was under a lot of pressure, and I thought we saw him handle it a little better than last year. Obviously not ideal still, but there's that one play where it's all collapsing down around him. He's scrambling. He steps up in the pocket, doesn't turn into a runner, looks, sees J.K. Dobbins wide open with a ton of field in front of him, throws him the ball. Not the most accurate ball, 1,000%, but J.K. does get 2 hands on it, drops the pass. If he catches that ball, and 9 times out of 10, he should catch that ball, it's going for a first down and then some. So, and I think there were multiple instances of that throughout the game where Stidham did look like the more veteran, comfortable quarterback. He was also, I think, going against a little less talent, and he is the more veteran quarterback. He's been in the league for 4, 5, 6 years now. Bo Nix, I think it's good some people got a little cold water thrown on him because I'm very excited about Bo. I think stock arrows up. He's got a fairly high ceiling. Could one day down the road win a Super Bowl with the guy. I've gotten very few issues with the guy, but he's not there right now. And I think there's been, especially this offseason, I've seen a little too much. Well, Bo Nix is already a top 8 quarterback or top 10 quarterback. I put out my quarterback poll a few weeks ago, and people voted him as like the 6th best quarterback in the league. And I think a performance where it was a little like, oh no, there are still some warts here. He is still a young, inexperienced player. Might have been good to like reset expectations heading into this sophomore season.
I think it's great, man. We saw him get better and the offense get better as the year went on. Sean Payton's going to get this thing in order.
I'm not worried.
Yeah. I ain't worried at all. Now, I will say, like, it was great to see him finally establish connection with Troy Franklin, like in game. Of course, we saw that big touchdown in Buffalo to end the year, but it was nice to see Troy Franklin and Bo connect on that 4th down play. There were a couple other throws that Bo had. I know that there was some talk about this Niner secondary just being terrible, but man, that player Lucas had like an amazing game. He was all over the place, and there were some really impressive, like one-handed jumping PBUs. I don't know if it was all from the same guy, but yeah, like maybe it wasn't perfect placement from Bo, but I thought that you saw some really solid plays from the secondary. Maybe you'd like to see Troy come down with one of those 50-50 balls, but like overall, I like what we saw to Troy Franklin. I think Sutton, man, he'll be productive as the season goes on. And I also liked what we saw to Pat Bryant, man, maybe aside from the holding penalty, but I think he showed that he could separate. He's got some good like game speed.
Yeah, Troy Franklin, I thought had a nice night. Like you said, that 4th down catch, I think there's a near 0% chance he's making that grab. Last year, it was nice to see through a little bit of contact in as high pressure as we're going to get in this stage of the season moment. And it was a zinger from Bo. Like he put heat on that. Franklin had to catch it kind of outside his strike zone, a little late, reached back behind his head for it, came down with it. Love to see that. Just because again, he was so unreliable last year that any signs of like, no, he has figured it out a good bit in terms of like hand-eye coordination, whatever, is so meaningful all camp long. I think he's only dropped 1 ball. Another good day in that regard. And then Pat Bryant, fully echo you there. I was worried about how he'd move. Mm-hmm. I thought he looked good on tape, but the testing times were concerning. Mm-hmm. During training camp, it's hard to get a gauge on that stuff from field level. He definitely didn't look especially fast or anything. I was very happy with how he was moving out there. It looked like he had plenty of juice. Honestly, it seems like the gap between wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 6 is almost non-existent. I think Sutton's going to be out there for a ton of plays. And then outside of that, it's going to be a lot of rotating based on situation. And I think there's some problems with that. It might be number 2 and number 3 aren't coming along as much as one might hope. But I think it's also, numbers 4 through 6 rather are outperforming the depth of what most other teams would be putting out there.
No doubt about it, man. And shout out to Tren Sherfield. This guy,
great game too.
This guy's definitely going to be getting snaps in some capacity with the Broncos. And again, just a trusty receiver. He's always been a trusty depth receiver throughout his career. And he is massive. He is a large human being. And I also wanted to point this out before we get away from the wide receivers. But Zach, like, again, it's hard to tell when what I see on just Twitter and stuff with the training camp highlights. But I think it's very clear that Troy Franklin has put a lot of work in with the strength and conditioning over the offseason, because I think he is noticeably just a bigger wide receiver, not totally jacked, but he no longer looks like a twig that could get, broken going across the middle of the field.
Yeah, it was probably the first thing I noticed out there at Broncos camp this year, where it was like, oh, Troy Franklin, he's not a big receiver, like you said, but he's just noticeably different build. And it's funny because you think the 11, if anything, would be slimming on him. And no, he looks a good bit bigger. Want to talk about Jahdae Barron some just before because it was a more negative night than a positive night, despite the final score, I feel. But Jahdae Barron, what a showing from him. I was excited to see what he could put out there, just because he is a more football IQ, instincts player. And I think you get less of a feel for those things in a camp setting than you do in a true game setting. And that came true tonight. I think he was all over, looked very clean. I think it's not going to be long at all before he's taking Jaquan McMillan's job, even though he had that great interception. I think even as soon as next week, we might see Jahdae Barron starting. We know Sean Payton wants the rookies to earn this job. I think Jahdae Barron might have earned it. He's just so dang clean. He's good against the run. He's laying the wood as a tackler. You're seeing everything as to why they took him at pick number 20. And I'm excited to see how that continues to develop throughout this season.
Yeah, I remember that one open field tackle that he had where he just looked like a missile on a mission, man. So I want to see more from him. I would love to see him in the starting lineup next week. We kind of got that typical Jaquan McMillan game, burned for 50 yards, maybe not burned, but just beat for 50-yard catch, from Mac Jones.
I think that was more of a dime than I'm not even holding that too much against Jaquan. It was pretty good coverage on the play. Maybe not perfect, but pretty good. And just like, man, that was a hell of a throw from Jones.
Yeah. But then you see him come up with that interception, and stock up for Jahdae Barron, stock up for the entire secondary. I thought that we would win the turnover battle. I thought that we'd be picking off the Niners quarterbacks quite a bit. And that's what we did. How many interceptions did we have? 4?
They had an insane amount of takeaways tonight, which has been a consistent theme for the Broncos defense in preseason. It was nice they got their feet under them. There are enough positive. We keep Jarrett Stidham, just before we go on to the next thing. I'll do a quick lightning round. Jarrett Stidham obviously had a good game. He was like 14 of 15 or something crazy like that. I think you feel good. He's not a game-changing player, obviously, but I think you feel good that if Bo were to go down, Stidham's not going to lose you games. He can at least kind of shepherd the offense, and you can hope the defense carries you through. Q Robinson really shined to me. I love that we were seeing him making plays in coverage, making plays in the run defense. We're doing a great job of setting the edge, because we've already heard all the pass rush hype, but seeing kind of that well-rounded game from him on the edge, I thought was really nice. I guess those were the other two I wanted to hit on. Anyone else jump out to you, David?
Oh, yeah. Karene Reid with that interception. That was really great to see. I'll need to go back and watch to see just how well he was like handling those run fits and whatnot. But it was great to see a linebacker come up with a nice coverage interception. I'm curious, like one of the guys that I was really interested to watch was Lavelle Bailey. I was like hoping he'd play pretty much the majority of the game, but they rotated some other guys in. But what did you particularly think of his performance today? Do you think he can beat out a guy like Alex Singleton for a starting spot?
I don't think the starting spot's going to happen yet, but I do think maybe next year. I wouldn't count that out next year. I think, another year, things get even quicker mentally, and maybe that gap is non-existent at that point. Singleton's obviously going to be leaving I shouldn't say his contract's expiring this offseason. Right. I would expect they don't re-up, but who knows? They clearly do like him. But I do think, like, could he challenge Sternad and Sanders for that number 3 job? Like going into training camp, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Sanders and Sternad are battling for 3/4, and then Lavelle Bailey's 5. And I think he's jumped all the way to like, no, Lavelle Bailey's actually number 3, or at least at the very least, he's competing with Sternad for that responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have the, I guess, foul play tonight, but he's very sound. And I think, in a backup, he's another guy who's not going to lose you a game. And that's reassuring because I think the linebacker depth was one of the larger concerns for this Broncos roster in general. And seeing that he at least looks like a serviceable option throughout training camp and now into the first preseason game, I think provides some optimism there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be fun to see how Karene Reid builds off of this. Secondary. Just want to give a quick shout out. Kris Abrams-Draine. I thought he had a great night, man, and almost had a second interception there.
They've got too many dudes. It's crazy.
Yeah. JL Skinner coming up with a nice forced fumble as well. Want to give him a shout out. And because I feel like there's definitely some toss-ups here with who rounds out the safety group for the 53. And JL making a play like that is what was fantastic. And I think we had a couple other interceptions. Let me see here from and I just went away from the tab. See who else did we have?
Great game from the defense. They were the takeaways were awesome. I think that gives you optimism. While you look that up, I'll transition to maybe the not so great part of the defense. Getting diced up by the Niners on that opening drive. I'll talk out of both sides of my mouth here. I think they cleaned it up after that, which was nice to see. Yeah. I also think now there were ugly bits on that drive. The first completion was really bad. The touchdown was laughably easy. But most of that drive was the 50-yard pass, and I think that had so much more to do with the Niners offense than the Broncos defense. I think McMillan had quality coverage on that play, and I just think it was a fucking dime. Excuse my language. I hope I don't get demonetized for one swear word, but I just it was perfect. It was so money, and I mean, it could have been better. He should have made the tackle right after the fact. He gave up like 10, 15 extra yards because he stumbled or dived for the ball or whatever. But to me, that's much less on the defense than it is like the offense making a great play.
Yeah, they came out in the second drive and they're like, all right, we're going to try. Or rather, it was just like Nick Bonito deciding to turn it on. He was just an absolute
pay that menace. Man, by the way. They need to pay that man. It seems like it's more Bonito understanding the situation, and that by being patient he only stands to make more money. So don't want to beat up on the Broncos too bad, but I would maybe go over the top and just be like, hey, here's the $33 million you want right now. Let's just knock this out, get ahead of it, and then it might end up looking like a savings. And there are holes in his game, but Trey Hendrickson, if he played for any of the other 31 NFL franchises, would have a $35+ million a year deal right now. And he's terrible against the run. It's like you can have those deficiencies. And he on the touchdown, I joked about the laughably easy touchdown. That's Nick Bonito blowing that play 1,000%. He's a flawed player, but pass rush and sacks are king at that position at the end of the day. And goddamn, he's got a knack for it. It's not just like BS inflated production. He is good at getting to the quarterback, and you pay that skill a lot of money in this league. So I don't know, pay that man.
When was the last time we saw one player just totally wreck a drive? Probably since Vaughn. He has that sort of step off the line like Vaughn had, man. Keep him around.
Zach Allen had one against the Bengals, but it's that type of stuff. You don't see it often.
Yeah, you just don't. So, Zach got his contract. Now it's time for Nick. And, I noticed one play from Q Robinson. I had him noted for a really nice open field tackle. Again, he's just looking as athletic as reported. So that's great to see.
It was a rough night for the Broncos, and I feel I'm being too positive. It's driving me a little crazy.
Oh, it's preseason. It's preseason. We can get to the offensive line if you want, though. If you want to get
let's get to that because I don't even think the defense was as concerning as it initially felt after that first drive. Offensive line where it was really rough. I can't wait to see the exact pressure charting numbers on this, but man, it felt like almost every Bo Nix drop back he was under pressure. And it's preseason. You're not getting crazy pressure packages thrown at you. This is a Broncos offensive line that allowed almost no pressure last year. I guess for me right now, that's my like saving grace or the thing I'm clinging to is that we've seen this Broncos offense go against or this Broncos offensive line play together for 2 seasons now and be incredibly good pass protectors and there hasn't been any major changes. So that I just kind of am banking more on that sample size than what we saw tonight. But I can't deny that tonight was very ugly and kind of embarrassing relative to what we expected for that unit.
I know. I didn't like it. I had, Ben Powers and Luke Wattenberg noted for some rough plays. I think McGlinchey might have gotten beat on a play or two. And you know what? Screw you, Robert Saleh, for dialing up corner blitzes in week 1 of preseason, man. Like, come on, what are you doing? But we did not handle that very well. It ended up in a safety. Good on him. But this is like my hot take. Like as a surprise cut. I don't think he's in this territory yet. I still expect the same starting 5 we had last year. But I think if there is one guy to get cut that would be a surprise, would be Ben Powers. But I don't know how Palczewski. I don't know, man. I didn't feel like he had a great day either.
You don't want to trust the sticky bandit, of course. Troubles on the offensive line. That was a really rough night for them overall. I don't know where they go. Like, I think Wattenberg, he also apparently struggled in the joint practice. You've got Alex Forsyth behind him, and I don't think he gives you any confidence at all. I think you've got to write it out with Wattenberg for at least this year, and then maybe you can address the position after that. But it was bad tonight. I just would keep going back to, we've seen this offensive line be pretty good for 2 whole years. And, it was rough for a quarter of preseason football, but that probably doesn't carry as much weight. But, you can't deny that 49ers defense beat them up today.
This is why we play in the preseason. You gotta knock that rust off. And I see Chiba saying surprise Clay Webb. I did see Clay Webb in there. I think he got a penalty. I forget what it was, but he was in there. But none of these guys really popped to me. I noticed like maybe 1 or 2 blocks that I really liked from Gargiulo, but I wasn't watching him exclusively the whole time. So I need to go back and watch to have any kind of definitive opinions on those guys. Frank Crum, penalty.
Need to draft some dudes. They've not been drafting enough on the offensive line in recent years. Need to get back to doing that. A lot of places still need some draft pick infusion, but I think that's definitely one of them. They were one of the rougher parts of the night. We talked about the running backs. I thought Jaleel McLaughlin was a big loser of the night. I'm trying to get my notes out really quick. Who else? Special teams had awful punt coverage on that first.
Let's talk about the losers of the night, man. Let's talk about
crazy. Like Crawshaw had some good punts. They weren't all great, but that first punt was a beauty. It was so well covered, and then none of them made the tackle. They were all standing around waiting for the returner. None of them made the tackle. They all lost contain. No idea what happened there. That was concerning to me. What else? O-line, of course. Kroll had that drop. That was pretty ugly. He cleaned it up with the touchdown. Bedet, I think we should talk about Bedet because he was a much lesser part of I guess I kind of mentioned it, but he was a lesser part of the offense than Troy Franklin for sure. But then it felt like he was more on par with Sherfield and Bryant in the rotation, which I knew Troy Franklin was climbing up the depth chart. I didn't know he was challenging for a top 3 role at all. It felt that way tonight.
Yeah, he's going to be an interesting one to monitor, man, because I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too much into it, Zach, but the guys who actually like are connected to the team that have sources, not myself, but when guys, in Denver media are just starting to tease the idea, like, what do you think about Bailey being shopped? You wonder if that's been a conversation that has happened in Denver, because they're loving the development with what they've seen with Troy Franklin and now they got Pat Bryant. That's going to be an interesting one to monitor, man. Especially with Tren Sherfield showing out. Like, honestly, what is Trent Sherfield? Is Trent Sherfield younger than Vele? Like,
He
are you really
probably
getting anything different with those two in terms of production?
29. He is older, but
Okay.
I think he could be right there. Yeah, it is interesting. How is Vele going to fit into the offense this year? I also think that is another credit to how much the roster as a whole has improved, where you were looking at last year, like they needed Vele so desperately because he was so clearly the second best receiver on this team for much of the season until Mims came on down the stretch. And now it's like he's maybe the sixth best option. I don't know if I'd quite go that far. I will echo Andy here. I think Jaleel McLaughlin and Devon Vele were the biggest losers of the night. Both those guys look like maybe not in trouble for roster spots, but definitely further down the depth chart than I initially expected. Is there anything else you want to get to that I missed here, David? I'm worried I missed something.
I thought Savion Jones. I thought Savion Jones popped. I thought he looked good. Batted pass. Fumble recovery.
Yeah, he had a couple big splash plays. I think that's nice to see, just because, with Henningsen, the depth is a little more in question this year, and also you need him to hopefully be able to replace John Franklin Myers next year. So good to start seeing those returns.
Dude, we haven't even talked about tight end group. Let's talk about the tight end group. I find this very interesting because he kind of had some different competitions going on, but one was the H-back role between Nate Atkins and Caden Preiskorn. And we saw Caden Preiskorn, line up as that H-back, as a fullback, as a lead blocker. You saw him line up as an inline tight end, and then you saw him with that really nice touchdown catch, right? It was ruled a touchdown, right?
I think he's a more dynamic athlete than Atkins.
Yeah, so that is one battle to watch because only one of those guys is going to make the roster. And I thought Preiskorn had a great performance for being a guy that is already on his second team as a UDFA.
Yeah, I think he can push for that. Like Andy's saying, I think he can push for a spot higher up the depth chart. I think Lohner, though, is going to stick around. I think they understand the long view there with him. I want to see more of him throughout the preseason. Wish we saw more of him this game. He's just a freak of an athlete, and I'm excited to see how that pans out.
Yeah.
Sorry, go.
Oh, I was just gonna say he just looks massive. So
it's freaky.
Once he learns the game, I think he's gonna be a great addition to the room.
And then, what are you to close this out here? What are you most hoping to see in the next preseason game? What do you most want to see from the Broncos in this next preseason game?
I would like to see the offense go down and score a touchdown. That's all I need. That's all I need. First team offense, go down and score a touchdown, man. That's all I need to feel good. I just want them to have some success. I like how Sean Payton leaves them in, dude, if they're like pissing them off. I enjoy that. And again, I think it's important for these guys to play, still being a young team. So you work out all this rust. We saw how that has, not gone well, for instance, a few years ago with Nate Hackett. And man, I'm expecting to see a better performance from the offense. And I want to continue to see Bedet and Watson pop. As long as they're performing well, man, our offense is going to be much more well balanced this year across the board. Yeah,
I'll go on I'll add on offense. I would love to see Troy Franklin have like over the shoulder deep ball grab. Just keep checking off boxes with him being a more reliable target. I'd love to see RJ Harvey sticking between the tackles. Would love to see that. I think piecing that together, if he can just get that together, because on his first carry, he did it. He took the hard yards. He just took, like 5 yards, whatever it was, up the middle. And I was like, yes, that's it. And then every other carry the rest of the night, he kept wanting to bounce him. I want to see more of what he did on that first carry. And then on defense, just show us that you're the dominant unit we all think you are. You're probably going up against whoever the Cardinals backup quarterback is. I don't even know who that could possibly be. I'll see if I can find it really quick. But I have no faith in who. Oh, it's Jacoby Brissett. He's actually pretty solid. Yeah. Honestly, all the better. It's not going to be a total joke performance then next week. Light up Jacoby Brissett. You should, and then in the joint practice too, I want to hear more about the defense dominating.
Yes.
Tying back to the defensive struggles at the front end of tonight's game, I would also take solace in the fact that in the joint practice, when they're not just calling vanilla stuff because it's not getting broadcast, they're not worried about that. Like, they're actually calling plays. The defense crushed the 49ers fairly elite offense by all reports. So and they didn't have DJ Jones for that. They were down Talanoa Hufanga for that as well. So lots of opportunities for reason for optimism rather. I still want to see them just whoop up on someone. I want to see that defense look like the dominant unit we expect it to be, because we're not expecting it to be a very good unit. The expectation is for it to be a dominant one. David, where can the people, is there anything else you want to hit on? And then also, where can the people find your work and support your great work?
Oh yeah. Well, thanks again for doing this, Zach. I'm really thrilled to be doing this for the whole year. It's going to be a lot of fun again. And I do want to say the other thing I'm looking for is the franchise. That's what I like to call him, Jeremy Crawshaw, our franchise punter. I want to see him with a couple coffin corners this preseason. So let's start seeing that. But yeah, you can find me at David Talks Broncos on YouTube, David Talks Sports on X and TikTok. I do have I post videos like every day on YouTube. Couple different other shows I have. Monday night Horsepower Hour with some other great YouTube friends talking all Broncos, and then Strez and I from Broncos Hub, we're going to be doing a show on Thursday nights throughout the week. So yeah, Blucifer's boys. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So come on over there. And yeah, if you want to have fun with Broncos football, this is the place. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Support his work. It's great. Like, honestly, he's an inspiration to us at Let's Talk Broncos with how regularly he's uploading. If you're watching on David's channel, check us out at Let's Talk Broncos. He's got a speed on regularity, but we've got some great content over there as well. A bunch of different great voices. I'm really proud of what we can offer. So check us out. We've got a lot of good analysis. I'll be going to practice and everything throughout the season. So I'll have some press conference tidbits and maybe even some exclusive interviews and whatnot. So make sure you're checking that out. Until next time, everybody, go Broncos, and let's hope the starters play a little better next time.
Go Broncos.